Voice for humanity.
32 minutes past 8 a.m. Central African Time. Welcome back. You are tuned into Salam Media, coming to you live via the airwaves of Radio Lansar on 90.4 FM in Durban, 105.6 FM in Pietermaritzburg, as well as the various platforms on which you can find Salam Media as an internet radio station. Welcome back. We move on now to our next conversation and next topic of discussion for this morning. That is, of course, cryptocurrencies, and of course, from an Islamic perspective. And to discuss this further, we're joined now by Mufti Ismail Desai. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to the show, Mufti.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
All right, Mufti Sahab, there has been much difference of opinion on the issue of cryptocurrencies amongst Muslim scholars. And this, of course, has led to much confusion on the subject. So if we can just begin with your stance on cryptocurrencies, smart contracts, and NFTs as well.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Nahmaduhu wa nusalli wa nusallimu ala rasulihil kareem amma ba'd. Before I actually define the Sharia precepts and fundamental issues around the concept of cryptocurrency, NFTs, and smart contracts, I would like to provide a brief introduction to these terminologies. The first is the issue of a smart contract. The smart contract is essentially a computerized system that automatically fulfills certain terms and conditions of contractual positions. In other words, that, for example, there is a contract in which certain terms has to be fulfilled in terms of the entire contract being executed, and the code for those terms and conditions is written into the blockchain, into the software system that automatically authorizes and validates those terms and conditions. One simple example is, for example, there is a contract of trade finance between a financial institution in South Africa and a client in the United Kingdom. And the client needs to fulfill certain conditions while the produce is en route in order for the financing to be fully executed. This is one example of smart contracts. There are a number of other use cases of smart contracts, and perhaps one of the earliest examples of the development of smart contracts is by a person by the name of Nick Sasabo in the year 1994, in which he discussed a computerized system in order to automatically fulfill terms and conditions. The second concept is that of the blockchain or cryptocurrency. In other words, blockchain refers to a peer-to-peer, decentralized, distributed ledger technology. In other words, that via the decentralized system of computer networks around the world, individuals across the globe who are unrelated to each other can validate and authorize transactions via what is termed as a digital ledger solution. This is what is referred to as the blockchain. And cryptocurrency is essentially a byproduct of the blockchain. The first concept is that of a non-fungible token or an NFT. An NFT essentially refers to a piece of work such as intellectual property, copyright, that is so unique that it cannot be replaced. And in other words, that this non-fungible token is backed by the blockchain technology. And in general, currently, most NFTs are backed by the Ethereum blockchain technology, which is a public ledger. And essentially, individuals across the globe can sell their intellectual property, copyrights, trademarks, or essentially unique piece of work to other members across the blockchain globally. So these are the three different concepts and terminologies. Now, from a Sharia perspective, the concept of, I would like to discuss the concept of money and then discuss the concept of currency or summon in Sharia. The concept of money or fiat money essentially was established in the early 1900s. But before that, perhaps the earliest example of coins per se was by King Alyates in present-day Turkey in the early 1600s, in which he introduced where coins were used as a medium of exchange. And perhaps in the early 1900s, you had e-money or fiduciary money, in which MasterCard had piloted a transaction of money being transferred over the internet. So this is the concept of fiat money. And then you had in 1940 the concept of proper fiat money, in which the gold standard was removed by President Nixon, in which through the Bretton Woods Agreement, fiat money was no more backed by gold. So this is a brief history of money, and essentially it started off where there was a barter of goods, and from a barter of goods it moved to coins, and from coins it moved to fiat money. And today what we have is what is referred to as digital money or e-money. So this concept of cryptocurrency is not something which is totally, a new innovation. In actual fact, the concept of fiduciary money, the concept of exchanging a non-tangible as a medium of exchange is already existent in the form of e-money or fiduciary money. For example, you visit a Western Union and you transfer money from the Western Union to another account in some other country in the world. You're not transferring physical cash per se, but you are transferring money from your account balance to another person's account balance. So this is the concept of money per se. When it comes to the Sharia perspective, then there are essentially three views in terms of cryptocurrency. And the one view is that cryptocurrency itself, it is a form of currency. The other view is that it can be considered an asset of value. And the third view is that it is totally haram and impermissible. In terms of such assets or commodities like a cryptocurrency, in Sharia, the principle is al-aslu fil ashaya ibaha, that everything is permitted in Sharia except if there is a proof that negates the validity, the Shariah validity of a particular asset or commodity. So when it comes to the cryptocurrency, if the underlying white paper does not denote anything which is non-Sharia compliant, then we would say in general we can consider that to be permitted. Now, first is you have something which is mubah, which is permitted, and thereafter you have something which is referred to as mal. What is considered something of value or wealth in Sharia? It is ma yataqawwamuhu an-nas. Wealth is considered that which the people consider it to be having value in Sharia. So, for example, swine, adultery, fornication, impermissible items, food items, in Sharia that is not considered to be having value. So although it is mal, although it is wealth, but in Sharia it is not al-mal al-mutaqawwam. It is not something which has exchangeable value in Sharia, and you cannot utilize such items for any transaction. So al-mal al-mutaqawwam means that there is an item of value which is considered to be having value in Sharia, and also by the people it is considered to be having value. So when it comes to cryptocurrencies, we can say in general that it is al-mal al-mutaqawwam, that it is an item of value that can be exchanged unless there is a white paper that denotes some activities which are of a permissible nature. For example, I recently came across the Time Wonderland APY solution, which essentially refers to where a time token is backed by the Magic Internet Money or MIM, which essentially refers to the lending of conventional funds would interest. So it refers to interest-bearing loans that back the Magic Internet Money, which also forms part of a basket of currencies which underpin the time money. So we need to look at the underlying white paper to ensure whether it is Sharia compliant or not. Now, when it comes to something being a medium of exchange or a summon, or what is termed as currency itself, now this is a gray area, and according to the preferred view in the Hanafi madhab, according to Imam Muhammad rahimahullah, in order for something to consider to be a medium of exchange, there are two important requirements. The first is what is called isti'mal, and the other is called istilah. So isti'mal means it is common usage among the people, and istilah means it is commonly understood and utilized by people to be a form of medium of exchange. Now, we cannot issue a blanket ruling on all cryptocurrencies being a form of currency or a medium of exchange. But yes, what we can say is that certain cryptos like Bitcoin or BTC can definitely be considered to be a form of currency, simply because it is used as a medium of exchange even by global companies like Tesla, PayPal, and it is becoming common currency across the globe, in which even normal traders they receive Bitcoin as a valid medium of exchange or valid tender or form of currency. Now, the objection that currency has to be regulated by the government in order for it to be a currency, that is incorrect. We find in the markets of Kufa, in Baghdad, in Iraq, in present-day Iraq, that the Hanafi fuqaha, the Hanafi scholars, have allowed what is called, fulus. Fulus refers to a form of bronze metal that was used as a medium of exchange by the traders, but it was a form of informal currency. It was not formal currency that was recognized by the state itself. In those times in Iraq, you had what is called the dinar and the dirham. But fulus never existed as a form of valid, legal tender by the state itself. So that objection is incorrect. And the second objection, that cryptocurrency is merely a scam. It is not backed by anything. That is also incorrect, because why do we use fiat money? Because fiat money is not backed by anything. It is considered to be a form of legal tender by the state. So it is not backed by anything. It is not backed by anything tangible. So that is not a medium of recognizing whether something is Sharia compliant or not. Yes, if something is a scam, for example, something is a fraud, for example, then we will not say that is permitted. But from a Sharia perspective, our duty is to define whether something is permitted, whether something is impermissible, or simply whether we really should abstain. So our view on the crypto situation is currently that it can be considered to be an asset of value per se, and it is backed by certain conditions, in the sense that the underlying white paper should have elements that are totally Sharia compliant, and there should be no elements that are non-Sharia compliant. For example, things like stocks, things like interest-bearing loans, etc., that should not be existent in the white paper that backs some of these cryptos.
All right, shukran so much for that introduction to cryptocurrencies and the background behind your fatwa on this. I think we've got to take a quick ad break, but when we get back, I think we should really continue with this discussion. So I'm going to ask Mufti Sab to please hold the line there and hold that thought. And when we come back, we'll continue. Please do stay tuned.
Freedom Stationery supply Marlin and Marlin Kids pens to me and my school friends. They supply just about everything we need to help us get a better education, from books to files to rulers. In fact, any any accessory we need. Freedom Stationery. Education for the nation. What does accessory mean?
Penny Appeal's Education First campaign helps children to get access to quality education.
I'm 14 years old. When I grow up, I'd like to be a scientist.
We believe every child belongs at school,
And we want education, a better education.
learning and dreaming their way to a better future. With your help, we can provide classrooms, desks, stationery packs, and school shoes. Help make these dreams a reality. Visit www.pennyappeal.org.za or call 031 1100 573. Penny Appeal. Small change, big difference.
What makes Randery Jewelers the optimum place for your memorable gift? Is it our range of exclusive, high-end, luxurious jewellery? Or is it our master craftsmanship of all your bespoke jewellery needs? We believe it's because at Randery Jewelers, we know just how to make your special moments last forever. Whether it's for a wedding, anniversary, or just a simple gift to show your love, trust Randery Jewelers to make it special. www.randeryjewelers.com. Make your moments last forever with Randery Jewelers, the family name you can trust.
The Prophet, peace be upon him, has said, "He is not a believer whose stomach is filled while his neighbor is hungry." Help us at Sanzaf to ease the hunger burdens of those in need by providing freshly prepared meals daily. You can be part of this by donating once off or monthly towards the Sanzaf Meals Project. Visit sanzaf.org.za or call us on 011 834 6046 for more information. Sanzaf, changing lives through development and relief.
Babu, why don't you loosen your belt a bit more?
But why now?
Well, it's very tight, blocking air to your brain.
Haju, this is only a start. I need to tighten up a bit more. Funds are tight and the cost of living is high.
Funds are not tight. It's your haram insurance which is tightening our barakat.
Okay, Haju. I will call my insurance friend tomorrow.
Maybe I must tighten up on my cooking from now on too.
No, Haju, we don't need to tighten up. It's okay. Look, I'm even throwing away my belt.
Don't tighten your belt. Change your insurance. Leaving Riba Insurance is easier than you think. Call Amana IFS for all your personal and commercial takaful needs. 0861 786 393. Amana, leave Riba for good. Amana IFS is a registered financial services provider.
Listen to something fresh. Listen to Salam Media.
You're tuned into Salam Media. My name is Zahid Jadwat. This is News and Views on Salam Media. And our guest this morning is, of course, Mufti Ismail Desai, who is a Sharia scholar, investment banker, author, and Islamic finance advisor. And he's our guest this morning, and he's joined us to speak about cryptocurrencies, especially in relation to a tweet yesterday made by Mufti. Mufti Sahib, assalamu alaikum and welcome back.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
All right, so before the ad break, I mean, you gave us quite an insightful overview of, the background towards cryptocurrencies and your fatwa with regards to this. Now, I think one of the main reasons for this very discussion as well is in a recent tweet, you seemingly endorsed crypto and NFTs. And now that we understand your background to this, of course, it does make a lot of sense. But you did highlight its potential to quote unquote eradicate poverty. So could you just elaborate further on this and why do you think this is the case?
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. One of the fundamental elements of an ideal Islamic economic system is that of justice, equality, and fair distribution. In other words, that an Islamic economic system is one that has what is referred to as distributive economic equality. In other words, that opportunities are equally available to each and every person in an ideal Islamic economic system. The undue and unjust monopolistic system of wealth creation is highly reprehensible in Sharia and according to Islamic economic business and finance. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about this in the Quran, that an ideal Islamic economic system is not one that causes the unjust monopolistic system of wealth creation between the highly wealthy people of society. And if we look at an Oxfam report of 2019, the world's wealthiest 26 people had amassed the wealth of close to 2.6 billion people of the world's poorest. This is a clear, unjust, and cruel monopolistic system of wealth creation. And this monopoly needs to be broken according to the Islamic principle of justice, and equality. Now, when we look at the Islamic economies, we find that in the Organization of Islamic Countries, or OIC, blockchain transactions equals close to 49 billion United States dollars, according to a 2020 report. And among the 57 OIC member countries, close to 30% of the population of the Organization of Islamic Countries live below the poverty line. 30% live below the poverty line. This is a massive number if we consider the hundreds of millions of Muslims that currently live below the poverty line. And when we look at the Islamic economic system currently, or Islamic finance currently, across the Gulf Cooperation countries, or the GCC, almost 40% of the assets are Islamic finance assets, or what is called Sharia compliant assets. Now, this means that Islamic finance, in its purest form, should be a form of finance and economic justice that eradicates and removes poverty. The mere mimicking of conventional products, as we currently see on an Islamic basis, while in its issue and its form to address and provide an Islamic financial solution for the public, we should not forget the plight of the millions or hundreds of millions of poor and impoverished Muslims out there. And this is what we intend to address by analyzing the issue of crypto, of non-fungible tokens, of smart contracts. Now, in terms of the potential for an NFT, for example, as I stated on my Twitter account, that, for example, a non-fungible token, firstly, also finds basis in Sharia in terms of a concept. In Sharia, under the concept of salam finance, or at Islamic forward sale, the concept of misliyat and fimiyat is also discussed. Misliyat refers to fungible items. Fimiyat refers to non-fungible items. So this concept of a fungible token, a non-fungible token, also finds basis in our Islamic fiqh, in our Islamic jurisprudence also. And essentially, the NFT is essentially a technological software system that is backed by a technology called the blockchain. So this concept itself does not go against the precepts of Sharia. And we can harness this power of the technology revolution to benefit the masses, to eradicate poverty. And I would just like to provide three use cases, three samples. The first is that we know the vast majority of impoverished Muslims are unbanked. They're not part of any formal financial sector. And through the blockchain and through the use of fintech or peer-to-peer lending, peer-to-peer financial technologies, the blockchain can be an empower tool to empower the masses so that financial services can reach the impoverished or African individual sitting in a village without any financial service, without any internet, for example. So this is one use case. The second use case is, for example, if you look at poor countries in Africa, in Asia also, that there is a huge issue of the official registration of title deeds, of land registry. And through the blockchain, through smart contracts, these deeds or the title ownership of land can be secured and stored in the blockchain and smart contracts, making it easier to facilitate transactions. The third use case is many of these unbanked individuals, the poor and the impoverished, they are unofficial citizens of different states. And through the use of blockchain smart contracts, they could be officially recognized so that they do receive services, whether it be financial services, whether it be social services. They could start to receive services from the state itself. By remaining unofficial, by remaining unregistered, they don't receive any services, they don't receive any financial services because they can't even register themselves without any identity. So these are just three use cases that I refer to. Now, in terms of the potential for poverty eradication, if we look at a simple issue of the NFT or non-fungible tokens, imagine if a poor person in Africa creates a unique piece of art that they can sell through a distributed ledger like an NFT, non-fungible token, and a person in the United States, for example, they purchase a piece of art, obviously which is in line with Sharia, that could be worth millions of dollars. They could use the funds to build a business. They could use the funds to empower their own tribe, their own village, for example. So this democratization of the economic and financial stratosphere is what blockchain seems to pursue and advocate. And this is what we also advocate in terms of creating a democratized system where wealth can be democratized as opposed to being monopolized by the wealthy few individuals.
I mean, just quickly before we move on to the next question, I just want to give you an opportunity, Mufti Ismail, to respond to some of the comments in the reaction that has come to your tweet. And in fact, if we look at one of the Twitter users, Hassan Arshad, said, quote, globalization was sold to humanity on the same principle, yet even a cursory glance at how things have turned out will indicate that only implementations that benefit the powerful will be allowed. And then, of course, off Twitter as well, another comment from another listener who says, unfortunately, the possibility of a crypto eradicating poverty is a distant pipe dream. Look at what happened to the Asian farmers when they got rich, when they got tech, rather. So I just want to give Mufti Saab a moment to briefly respond to these.
The concept of globalization is not something new in Islam. In fact, we know Khadija radiallahu ta'ala anha, the noble wife of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, used to trade in Asham. She used to travel from Makkah Mukarramah all the way to the Levant. And in those times, that was a major distance that they would travel. They would travel all the way to the Levant, to Asham. They would purchase goods. They would trade there. They would come back and sell goods. So this concept of the import and the export of financial commodities or assets, whether it be in the form of physical assets or non-physical assets, is not something that is foreign or alien to Islam. When it comes to the issue, nevertheless, of globalization, the current concept of economic globalization and the export of the free market economy was touted as being a form of democratization of the global economic system. However, this system depended upon the democratization of the political tools that could be used by the WTO, by the World Trade Organization, and by other global entities such as Basel and the International Monetary Fund, etc., that could regulate international trade. However, this system, to a large extent, has had certain weaknesses. And the concept of deglobalization also existed in the early 1940s, in which countries globally decided to focus on their own economy as opposed to the concept of globalization. Now, the reality of the situation is that we live already in a global village. If you are on social media, you have followers from across the globe. Your followers and your network is not only restricted to your own country. You have networks from across the globe, whether you're on LinkedIn, whether you're on Facebook, whether you're on Twitter. This is just one concept of social media. If you look at other entities like Amazon, like PayPal, for example, these are businesses based in the United States, but the vast majority of their business actually comes from outside of the United States, which are non-US dollar equivalent. So this proves the concept of globalization in the sense that you can be sitting in one country, but you can export your services, your commodities, your assets to the global economy, and you have a much bigger market to pursue as opposed to your own local market. So this is the first issue. The second issue is that when we look at globalization itself, and we look at the monopolization of wealth, let's look at the numbers. And the numbers speak for themselves, that 80% of global international capital currently moves between the Western countries and Southeast Asia. In other words, countries like Singapore, Hong Kong, etc. And the vast majority of poor countries like Africa, etc., they only receive a small portion of foreign capital injections, and this is mostly funded by foreign aid donations. So, do we simply sit back and say that we accept the fact that we cannot be globalized, we can't be part of a global economy, or do we take the step forward and say, how do we practically engage with the global economy to pursue opportunities in the global market and thereby empowering ourselves? So, in brief, to answer the objection, that globalization, backed by principles and backed by innovation, backed by growth, backed by unique selling points of different commodities and assets from individuals within foreign countries, would be a great boon to them in the sense that they could offer these services to a global market. Yes, every business, every opportunity comes with challenges, and those are challenges that should be tackled and addressed through different mechanisms and mediums.
All right, Jazakallah so much for that. Just quickly before we wrap up, one more question is, what is the Islamic viewpoint on crypto leverage and arbitrage trading?
So when it comes to the crypto leverage and crypto arbitrage trading, essentially this refers to where crypto sold in its raw form per se, for example, in the US, is worth considerably cheaper than crypto sold in another country, for example, say the South Africa. So this difference in pricing is what is termed as the leverage or arbitrage trading. Now, when it comes to the arbitrage trading, there are two issues. First is that the terms and conditions of the platform itself need to be Sharia compliant in terms of ensuring that if you're purchasing an asset, whether you consider it an asset, whether you consider it to be a currency, then there are certain rules that are fixed in the sense of possession, whether actual custody takes place or not, or whether it's simply exposure or pricing. The second issue is whether you consider it to be actual currency or a form of value. So, and you also need to look at the actual underlying crypto that is being traded. So there are a number of peculiarities and permutations in terms of reviewing that issue, and you can contact us, for a specific ruling in terms of a specific scenario.
All right, shukran so much for that. And I think for some of the listeners who may be wondering, how can we contact you to find out more? And in general, how can we learn more about Islamic finance and economics?
So, alhamdulillah, we have established the Sharia compliant business campaign website, which is called www.shariabusiness.com. And on the website, alhamdulillah, my book is available free of charge for download, called Your Brief Guide to Islamic Finance. And this book has 16 chapters on contemporary issues such as sukuk, Islamic bonds, Islamic funds, Sharia governance, Sharia audit, risk management, liquidity management. And the book, alhamdulillah, has been published in several countries. It has been taught at over 100 schools and has received close to over 2 million downloads. So you can contact me there on the website for shariabusiness.com. Also, you can follow the questions there, and those questions will be answered. You'll also find recently answered questions on the website titled Fatawa or Islamic Verdict, which have been updated and posted onto the website.
All right, shukran so much for that, Mufti Saab. That was a really interesting discussion, and I think it really had much more scope as well, but I think let's not take much more of your time. Shukran so much for that.
Jazakumullah khair, and inshallah we will continue the discussion.
Inshallah. That was Mufti Ismail Desai speaking to us about his views on cryptocurrencies, NFTs, and that sort of thing, for the listeners, especially in light of one of the tweets which he made recently, in which he endorsed it and actually said that it seems that this has potential to eradicate poverty. Mufti Desai is a Sharia advisor and an investment banker at Global Islamic Financial Services firm GIFS. That's where we're going to leave that discussion for now. Let's take an ad break, and when we get back, it's time for financial updates with Nafisa Sadat. Please do stay tuned.
Every